Welcome to the deep dive. You've given us some really interesting material here, digging into how anxiety evolved and, well, how it impacts us now, especially in trading psychology.
Yeah, it's a fascinating link, isn't it? These sources really help us see how this ancient brain, built for, immediate physical stuff, tries to cope with the abstract world of finance.
Absolutely. So our mission today is to really dive into this, why we worry from that evolutionary angle, connect it squarely to trading, look at the common psychological traps it sets.
And importantly, pull out the strategies the sources offer for managing it, right? When your capital is actually on the line.
Exactly, because at its heart, it's this mismatch, isn't it? Our brains are running old software, basically, for a world that just doesn't exist anymore, certainly not in the markets.
That's a great way to put it. Old software, new world.
Okay, let's get into that evolution part. The sources talk about this key difference between an immediate return environment and a delayed return environment. They use a giraffe, actually, as an example.
Right? The giraffe on the savannah. Think about its life. Everything it does, eating, drinking, finding shelter, spotting a lion, it gets an immediate result.
Eat now, hunger gone now, run now, danger avoided now.
Precisely. And if it feels stress, that anxiety is a direct signal. Do something right now. And doing that thing usually makes the stress go away immediately. It works, for survival.
Okay, but then there's us, modern humans, most big things we do. Well, the payoff is way down the line. You work all week, paycheck comes later.
You save for retirement. That's decades away. Study for years. The job comes after you graduate. That's the delayed return environment.
And the things that stress us out, job security, mortgages, long-term health, you can't just do one quick thing now to fix them, usually.
And here's the kicker, evolutionarily speaking. Our actual brain structure, the neocortex size and all that, it hasn't fundamentally changed in maybe 200,000 years.
Wow. So it was totally shaped by that immediate return world.
Completely.
Mm-hmm.
While our modern society, with finance and global stuff and abstract problems, that's maybe the last 500 years. It's nothing, evolutionarily. A blink.
So our brains are still wired up to want things now. Instant results, immediate pleasure, avoid pain right this second.
Exactly. And that stress response, that anxiety, which was super useful for like a short burst of escaping a predator.
It becomes chronic in our delayed world because the threats, the worries don't just go away after a quick action.
That's it. The sources point out wild animals don't really get chronic stress like we do.
Mm.
A zebra escapes a lion. It literally shakes it off and goes back to grazing 5 minutes later.
But we're worrying about next month's bills or something that might happen years from now.
Yeah, or even think about bad turbulence on a plane.
Mm.
Intense stress,
Yeah.
right? But unlike the lion, there's nothing you can do. You just sit there feeling it. No immediate action brings relief.
Okay, so that brings us to trading. How does this ancient anxiety, this wiring for saber-toothed tigers, collide with something like the stock market?
Well, trading is almost a perfect storm, isn't it? It's a delayed return environment, absolutely soaked in uncertainty. And that is tailor-made to set off those old survival circuits.
The inner caveman, as the sources call it, or the amygdala.
Exactly. The amygdala, that's the older, sort of lower level part of the brain, all about survival, emotion, fight or flight. Very basic.
Versus the prefrontal cortex.
Right. The newer, higher level part, that's
Yeah.
where strategy, logic, long-term thinking, thriving, not just surviving, happens.
Okay, this is crucial. So when I'm in a trade, my money's at risk, the market's uncertain. My amygdala sees that risk, that psychological discomfort, as an actual physical threat, like a threat to my life.
It essentially does, yes.
Yeah.
To that ancient system, money equals resources, resources equals survival. So risking money feels like risking survival itself.
Okay.
And when that amygdala lights up with a threat signal, it triggers those survival instincts, fight, flight, freeze. But here's the critical bit the sources emphasize.
Yeah.
It also effectively throttles down the prefrontal cortex
Ugh, okay, that explains so much. Like why demo trading feels easy and calm.
because there's no real threat perceived. Your prefrontal cortex is driving.
But put real money on the line, real risk, bam. The amygdala shouts, danger. And the thinking brain just kind of goes offline. The caveman grabs the wheel.
That's precisely the model. To that emotional survival brain, uncertainty plus real risk is an immediate threat to life. And our deep evolutionary programming to win, to survive no matter what,
Which was great for escaping lions.
works completely against us in trading. Because trading isn't about achieving certainty on this one trade. It's about playing probabilities over many trades, right? Managing uncertainty long term.
So our brain's focus on immediate survival screws up the need for the patient long-term view that lets a trading edge actually, work out over time.
That is the fundamental conflict. Emotion up, smart decision-making down. The brain sees potential loss as immediate pain to be avoided right now, triggering survival tactics.
And this is where all those common trading mistakes come from, driven by this evolutionary anxiety.
According to the sources, yes, absolutely. They list quite a few classic examples stemming directly from this amygdala takeover, this subconscious drive to dodge what feels like physical danger. Like fear of execution. You see the setup, it fits your plan, but you just freeze, can't click the button, because that act triggers the fear of loss.
Or the opposite, maybe, jumping out too soon.
Exactly. Fear of loss leading to premature exits, or messing with your stops impulsively just to avoid seeing any red, even if the plan says hold.
Oh, the classic moving the stop to break even way too early. I've felt that urge.
Right. It's the caveman brain wanting to eliminate the potential for pain immediately. Doesn't care if it cuts off a potentially big winner. Same with taking profits too early.
Locking in that tiny bit of immediate gratification.
Yes. A small win now feels better to the amygdala than the uncertain potential of a bigger win later, which might vanish. And then there's chasing trades, FOMO.
Fear of missing out. Driven by greed, the flip side of fear may be reacting emotionally instead of sticking to the plan.
Exactly. It just drives home that point, doesn't it? We're not these coolly logical machines in the market. We're emotional creatures first. Our survival brain reacts, and then our thinking brain tries to rationalize it after the fact.
And that survival brain just can't tell the difference between a lion and, say, the risk of a 1% drawdown on your account. It's all just threat to it.
All risk feels like an immediate survival threat. Understanding that, really getting that, is step one to managing it.
Okay, so we understand the evolutionary roots of this anxiety now. What can we actually do about it? What strategies do the sources offer to manage this and close that gap, the performance discrepancy between our strategy and our results?
Well, the core idea is you have to consciously train your brain. You need to learn to regulate those automatic ancient impulses and, crucially, distinguish real biological fear from the psychological discomfort of taking calculated risks.
Makes sense. Easier said than done, probably.
Oh, definitely. But one key strategy they suggest is simple but powerful. Measure something.
Measure something in the face of all this uncertainty.
Yeah, because measurement takes the unknown and makes it well known, or at least more known. It brings clarity and provides tangible feedback in an environment where feedback is normally delayed and fuzzy.
So I can't measure whether my next trade will be a winner, obviously.
Right, but you can measure your adherence to your rules. Did I follow my entry criteria? Did I stick to my stop loss? Did I manage my risk size correctly? You measure your process.
Huh, okay. And that measurement gives that ancient brain the kind of immediate, concrete feedback it understands and craves, but doesn't get from just looking at P&L swings. It sort of reduces the worry fog.
Exactly. It pulls you out of that anxious uncertainty loop. Another really interesting strategy is called shift your worry.
Shift your worry. How does that work? Sounds a bit odd.
It means deliberately moving your focus away from the big, uncontrollable long-term outcome that causes anxiety, like, will I be profitable this year? Or will I ever make it as a trader?
Okay. Shift it away from that. To what?
To a daily routine, a specific process you can control that directly works towards that long-term goal.
Ah, I think I see. And the trick is that daily process needs to give you some kind of immediate reward or satisfaction, something the caveman brain likes.
Precisely. The sources use examples like, instead of worrying about publishing a book, focus on writing 500 words today. Instead of worrying about long-term health, focus on doing your workout today.
So for a trader, maybe focus intensely on doing my pre-market checklist perfectly this morning.
Yes. Or executing my entry and exit rules exactly as planned on any trades I take today, or doing my post-market review objectively tonight.
And completing those tasks gives you that immediate hit of, okay, I did my job well today. That feels good, reinforces the right actions.
And builds confidence.
Right.
While also being the actual work that leads to the delayed reward of profitability down the line. You're basically hijacking the brain's reward system to work for you, not against you.
That's clever. Okay, what else?
Then there's the need to engage the higher objective mind.
Right, getting that prefrontal cortex back online. Striving for objectivity, seeing things as they are.
Exactly. Seeing the whole picture, the probabilities, not getting fixated on just one outcome you desperately want or fear. The sources really stress this. Feeling certain in trading, whether it's "I'm sure this will win" or "I'm sure this will lose," is usually a sign your emotions have taken over.
Because that certainty is probably based on a narrow, distorted view, right? Driven by the fear or the greed.
Almost always. Acting from that emotionally charged, limited viewpoint means you're basically fighting yourself, not the market. Engaging the thinking brain lets you see the probabilities more clearly, act methodically, without fear blowing risks out of proportion or greed making you ignore them.
Which ties into another point. Let go of the need to win, focus on performance.
Yeah, that deep evolutionary urge is all about winning the immediate encounter, surviving the threat. But in trading, that doesn't work. You can't control the outcome of any single trade.
So you shift focus.
From trying to control the uncontrollable outcome to controlling what you can control. Your mindset, your discipline, how well you execute your process in managing the uncertainty.
So my job isn't to make the market pay me, it's to perform my role correctly, follow the plan, manage the risk, and let the edge work out over the long run.
That's the mental shift. Focusing on process performance over outcome obsession. That's the mental edge that supports your strategic edge. And it fundamentally requires accepting, even embracing, uncertainty.
Which leads to embrace uncertainty, develop discipline and patience.
Yes. Pros don't fight uncertainty. They operate within it. Their whole mindset, calm, disciplined, patient, impartial, is built for that environment. They aren't constantly thrown off by the caveman brain demanding certainty now.
And the final piece seems to be about actually acknowledging and facing your fears, not ignoring them.
Absolutely crucial. Those evolutionary fears, fear of loss, fear of missing out, fear of being wrong, they run the show until you consciously deal with them.
So name them, understand where they come from.
Yes. Understand their ancient signals, often misinterpreted in this context, and then develop the courage, the skill to feel that discomfort, but still act according to your rational plan, your higher objectives. Facing those fears is how you grow past their control.
Okay, so wrapping this up, the core problem is this deep conflict. Ancient brain, built for immediate survival and certainty, versus the modern trading world, which is all about delay, abstraction, and uncertainty.
And just recognizing that conflict, knowing its deep evolutionary roots, that's not just academic, right? It's the essential first step to doing something about it.
And then applying these strategies like measuring your process, focusing on daily routines for immediate reinforcement, engaging objectivity, shifting focus to performance, embracing uncertainty, and facing those fears head on. That's how you start to train the brain.
That's the path the sources lay out. Learning to manage the psychological discomfort of risk instead of being driven or paralyzed by it. That's how you close that gap between what your strategy could do and what you actually achieve.
It leads to a really interesting final thought, doesn't it? Given our brains really did evolve for a completely different world than financial markets, is becoming a consistently profitable trader more about mastering the market?
Or is it actually, maybe more profoundly, about mastering the built-in limitations, those ancient hardwired responses of your own evolutionary hardware?
Definitely something to chew on.